I have 8:30. At this time, we'll call the January 13th meeting of the West Memphis Utility Commission to order. The first item on the agenda is approve the minutes of the December 9th meeting.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Holmes, any additions or deletions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Second item is the December safety report.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Try.
It's on.
Might need a battery.
That works just like that, do.
Go. There we go. That ain't good.
That's what you need.
Look at that. Technology working at this morning.
At least you know how to fix it. Know how to fix it.
Okay. Our numbers currently are 813 days. Well, a long time injury. It's been 70 days since our last recordable injury, and we had 5 recordables for 2021 with an incident rate ending at 7.0. And we're at a 0 incident rate for 2022. Go ahead, I'll say. All right, for our training, our monthly safety meeting was near misses. The warning signal, and it asked, how many times have you shrugged off a near miss? Never give it a second thought. Maybe next time we need to think twice, because sometimes the difference from a half inch so is not going to be there next time. And he gave the example of just walking up the same walk path, 3 different incidents. First one, individual slips, they catch their balance and no harm done. Second one slips, but they're not quite as agile, and they jump off the walkway, but no harm's done. And the third one comes along carrying a load and has that same scenario play out, but they fall off and break their ankle. So the moral of it is we had 2 warnings that were ignored because the first 2 just kind of didn't think anything about it and walked off unscathed, and then somebody got hurt. And so all we do is kind of react to, it's a reactive response from then on out. And that's what we got to try to be proactive and catch that right off the bat. In this corner. Okay. This graph has been running for a few years now, and I added 2021 into it. It'd be in the blue at the top for recordables. As you can see, there's kind of a trend there. We're around that 4 or 5 every year, except for the odd year we've had that 8 since I've been keeping up with it. You can also see a trend in the lost time days, how we've been past 2 years at 0. We had 1 incident that created some lost time days. But out of 3 out of 4 years, we had no lost time days compared to, a considerable number every year prior to that. And then our incident rate, you know, that kind of jumps around depending on how many employees we got and how many hours that are being worked with those employees. It's still not where I'd like it to be. We want zero. Zero injuries, zero incident. The incident rate can be at zero. We're working at it. Something along those lines, I did submit our annual safety awards report with APPA. And again, they don't care anything about the water or the sewer. They just want to hear about the electric side. So I have to split everybody up and split the hours up. I think we ended up with like 29.61 electric employees. By split it up, I mean there's only a third of the office workers can be counted, only a third of meter readers can be counted, because they're, or half of the meter readers, because they're reading water half the time, they're reading electric half the time. So our incident rate was up a little bit, but one good thing about it, I did not have to count 2 of the injuries because they had absolutely nothing to do with electric. So we were 3 injuries, 0 lost time days, and another thing I'm gonna start looking at is, because it's surprising, that we were 0 days with any restrictions or job transfers. So that means our injuries were minor enough that we didn't even have to place anybody else into an alternate job for a few days. And I've got good hopes, this being our 3rd year, we may get recognized for it, we may not. But I think that's a good indicator that we are improving every year. Our safety manual that this body adopted last month. Last week we got out the majority of them to the managers. We had one department that manager was out last week, and now there's several employees out. So we still need to get that one done and get it out, folks. But we're pushing out the safety manual, and we'll start operating under it for this year. Like I said, everything's looking good, and I'm optimistic for 2022. And with that, that's all I've got. Unless anybody's got any questions. Thank you.
Good job.
The next item is the personnel update.
All right. First thing to go over, let's go over right here. You see the total number of positions. Once City Council approved the budget that y'all proposed, we went from 83 full-time employees to 79 full-time employees. So this number dropped by 4. Okay. Remember the departments that lost those employees were electric, meter, water, and office, all dropped by 1 employee. Okay. Looking at the positions that are open through, and this is only through December 31st, you can see we have the accounting position in admin. We have several electrical positions and several water positions. That's the 2 areas again we're going to be focusing on here at the very beginning to truly get some people in here to start getting them trained and looking at starting to get their certifications and moving forward to help us out in those departments. The office has an open position. I know she has several applications. This position has been open a while. I can tell you, she actually went through a wave of interviewing, actually made some selections, but then when they were looking at the previous salary, actually were turning down the positions based on the salaries where they were previously. Again, this is one of them that y'all changed, and where the starting pay was $14 is now $16. So the hope is that when she starts doing the interviews again, that the candidates that we receive that are qualified and comfortable with will be willing to, for the new pay scales. Okay? Wastewater, we do have one open position there, it's a foreman's position that we're still struggling to get with. This one actually was literally just started in our department January 10th, so this next month will be a 0. Nick put out for the electrical a Facebook page of our new scales, and I can tell you within 3 days we received 15 applications. So those that the new pay scale range for, because again, those operational positions are now went from starting at $14.50 to starting at $17. So the hope is that with that new starting scale, we can get some young people in here that, you know, hey, you come in here without any experience, we will train you, okay, and be able to move up. I think that's all I got. Any questions on personnel?
COVID problems,
Say again.
COVID,
We are having some positives hit us. The department that's actually been hit the worst is the electric. We had a couple of those gentlemen test positive. We had another one in there who actually his children tested positive, so he's having to stay at home to take care of his children. So this week, you know, with the new CDC guidelines, it's only a 5-day quarantine and then they come back. But what we went ahead and did, because they are reduced in staffing numbers as far as actual personnel we have, plus we went ahead and I said, hey guys, let's only do emergency stuff. And also, we're riding one to a truck, literally. So if you see 5 trucks, that means there's only 5 guys. That's bad, but they're not even, you know, where normally they're riding to a truck. I said, let's just go to one a truck right now. I can do that in that department. I can't do that in my water right now. Even with the reduced people, it's just, you know, we don't have enough vehicles to do that in that department. Everybody else, we're just, again, asking them when they're in close proximity to the other personnel, wear their mask. We're not requiring it. I'm not going to beat them up or ride them up. I'm just asking them all, hey, try to help us, everybody out during this time. And when you're in close proximity to other people, wear your mask. Okay.
any questions? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is broadband feasibility study.
Good morning. So just as a way of kind of reminding everybody where we are with this and how we got here, it's been the first half of the year, there's been a lot of discussion about should we look at extending our services to include fiber, broadband. In June, we asked for proposals, and we got several. We did a professional service review, selected a company. Part of that selection process, we talked to some other communities that had used them. We brought that recommendation to the commission in July. We approved that we move forward with it. At the same time, we were trying to get a grant from the state to pay for the study. The study was going to cost about $72,000, and the grants were available upwards of $75,000. But in August, you approved us moving forward with phase 1 of the study, whether we got the grant or not. And then a few weeks after that, we got the grant, and we can be reimbursed for the part that we already had spent money on. So we've moved forward with a grant that feasibility study is being funded by a state grant. We received the rough draft last week. It was 161 pages long, and quite often when you get these kind of studies, they have just cut and pasted a bunch of general information, more, not these people. We had about 10 pages of that where they just talked about the industry in general and trends and blah, blah, blah. Virtually every other page was specific to West Memphis. So they dug deep. So the question on everybody's mind, how much is it going to cost? They estimated $27.7 million.
How, what?
I did the same thing, T.
Okay, it's gonna cost more than our sewage treatment plant upgrade, 27.7. But that was based on some assumptions that we contracted out 100% of the work, that we had to hire a whole new front office, they didn't take in an account any things that we can do ourselves. So that's our follow-up discussion. We're asking them to revise that number. If we did all the work, looking at no contract labor, just how much does it cost to buy the equipment? And we're assessing, can we train in-house to run the fiber, to make the drops, to help with customer service, things like that. So that's the upper. Hopefully next month I'll come back with another number. At the same time, we're looking at the grants that are out there. The study helped break down categories of grants that we could apply for, and we've started working on that. So let me just give you some of the takeaways on this, on the study. One of the first things they comment on is that AT&T stopped selling DSL service in October 2020. So if you've got the service with AT&T, you can keep it, but if for some reason they cut you off because you didn't pay your bill or you want new service, they're not going to give it to you. They're just going to maintain what they have. So what that essentially means is Comcast is becoming a monopolistic operation. And as they say here, as we know, monopoly practices result in higher prices, less attention to maintenance, slower repair times, and less incentive to upgrade, which surprisingly their survey found to be the case of the respondents. Now, these guys are professionals. They did what they call a significantly survey. They implored all the things where you get a 95% confidence level in the results. So they knew how many phone calls they had to make, and the demographics they had to talk to. And then they did a non-significant online survey where, anybody, you had to have internet to be able to answer the question. So that survey could possibly be skewed a little bit. But they found a lot of similarities between the two, and it gives us maybe more confidence in what they had. So the numbers are 80%, 87% of residents have broadband in home, 7% have it with their phone, and 7% or 6% don't have it. And the reason they don't have it is they say they can't afford it. 34% of the respondents either worked from home or had children who were trying to do schoolwork from home, and 30% of them said the broadband was not sufficient for them to do that. It was not adequate. They couldn't do their work, and they had to find some other way of doing it. 83% liked the idea of the city exploring this. Another 14% said they needed some more information, but they were inclined to be favorable for it. So that gave a 97% rate of support for the project. And then the follow-up question, well, would you change if if the city offered this. 50% said they definitely would. 19% said, well, they wanted to see the price first, but they were inclined to. And the consultant said they had never done a survey like this, and they've done hundreds of them, where there was that high level of dissatisfaction with the service and support for new service. Let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, and then they pointed out there was, because we have 6% who said they can't afford your service. Their target price that they based this study on, or as a result of this study, is they suggesting we could offer the service for $55 a month. The average national rate is $73 a month. And they based all their forecasts on only penetrating, getting 55% subscribers, even though the survey suggested we should get 70%. So based on the $55 target, the FCC has a program where if the household makes less than 200% of the national poverty average, they're eligible for a $30 credit each month for their broadband bill. So with our already low price, take $30 off that, we would be able to target the 6% that don't have broadband for $25 a month, which would also help boost our subscription rate. So based on all this, we're moving forward with refining the survey results, the study results, and then coming up with a new budget and pigeonholing, breaking it up so that we can go after some grants. And I look forward to maybe coming back next month with an update. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, yes, sir.
Is any grants out there for this $27 million?
Yes, so there are grants for digital inclusion, which means neighborhoods that don't have it. And we're looking at, we can identify those because there's criteria you have to meet. And Paul Luker has a great map broken down by census tracts that provides that information. So we can do a grant app that say, we would move into these census tracts and it would cost X amount to run fiber down the pole. That's our grant request. We want to run fiber out to our pump stations and substations. Well, we could apply for that under an infrastructure grant. Well, once we get the fiber out to our substations, then branching out into the neighborhoods would be cheaper, and then we could hit a grant up for that. So we're looking at breaking this up. That's the benefit of this study, is it went into so much detail that we can segment this, because once that money hits, everybody's going to be after it, and it's expensive. And our strategy is to go after, not asking for 27 million, but asking for 3 million here, 4 million there, things like that, where we can piecemeal it together. And again, during the development of this study, that was the approach we asked them to look at as they put it together. So hopefully. Yes, sir.
As important as this is for education, the students, there's more and more remote learning being done. Is there any money available through the Department of Education?
We have been, so I met with ASU, Mid-South, their IT director, and we've looked at that. They've got access to money, and some of that money is for like providing training, providing laptops, but we can dovetail into that okay, we can help provide service to the house, you can provide the training. So, again, as this gets more refined, I'll give you a better answer.
So are these grants part of the Build Back Better initiative? Or you don't know?
Part of it is the money that the state already knows it's getting, and they are sitting on it. The governor wants, when he leaves office, he wants broadband. But they're kind of waiting to see what happens with this Omicron. So they kind of put a hold on grant awards for a few months. But then there's another batch of money coming later this year. And that's where we're working to get our grant applications kind of reviewed and make sure we're hitting the right things. And we're trying to get them in before the money is released. So,
Hey, well, isn't, some of the grants we've been aware of, and not fully, because it was hit pretty hard in the infrastructure bill, the first act that has completely passed. Those monies have not been released yet from the federal government. That's where a very, very large portion of that infrastructure bill is towards broadband expansion.
each
But
state
since
got
I heard
$100
the
billion.
governor last week say that they had a large amount towards infrastructure. Whether it's, I didn't get into the details of whether it's.
Well, this is where I'm talking to a grant consultant, because you read that each state got $100 billion for broadband, but then some of the federal agencies are also giving out grants. And, you know, who do we turn, how we have to qualify?
All and see what that falls out.
Right, so we're trying to decide now, is it worth talking to these people and hiring them? You know, it's just, there's a lot of great opportunities. And I've already submitted some infrastructure grant apps for water for the first review. So in addition to broadband, we're looking at our other projects as well. But there's a lot of money out there. But the state had done a questionnaire survey in August, and we turned in $42 million worth of projects. They ended up with like $1 billion, and they're not getting anywhere near that much money. So they've got to be very selective and targeted apps. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the hard work. Okay, next item is 5, I guess.
Yeah, I just had a couple things I wanted to go over. First one is, and I know this hit Facebook, I think those who are on certain apps, Mr. Burns, I think, responded to some of them. A lot of people, the fuel adjustment charge in the month of December was abnormally high. I mean, again, I went over what the fuel adjustment is. I want to just kind of go over what caused that in the month of November, and it could potentially happen it actually was on the December bills, but it's what occurred in November, and it could potentially have the same effect in January bills also. What actually has happened is at our coal plants, typically with natural gas prices elevated like they were, the coal plants would be on and running and selling to the market and making money, which then would offset our cost that we incur for buying from the portion that we buy from the market. Well, due to the fact that natural gas prices were high, we were asking for the railroads to increase their deliveries of coal to us. They were not able to ramp up in a satisfactory amount of time to start delivering the amount of coal we wanted, okay, to the coal facilities. So we made a decision to go under a coal conservation strategy because we were concerned that if that continued to happen, come January and February, and it got extremely cold, if we actually ran the coal, because if we would have ran the units like we needed to, they would have turned on and probably not stopped. There would be probably no coal on the ground. We would have completely ran out of coal to be able to burn. And you do not want to do that in the middle of the winter, when you have to have, you have the extreme temperatures and potentially a reliability issue. So we made a decision to do a coal conservation strategy for those months, and the coal plants did not run very much in the months of November. And I can tell you, the month of December, they produced 0 kilowatt hours of energy. Okay? I can tell you a little update that we did receive is the railroads it appears, are starting to perform at a better rate now. We went away from that coal conservation strategy starting the 1st of January. Okay? The other thing that also helped us is natural gas prices. For some reason, I guess warmer weather than what the weathermen predicted was going to hit the Northeast. Natural gas prices have started to drop. Where they were in the mid $5, they are now in the upper $3. So that's helped. Okay? Again, so what ended up happening was, because the coal plant, with natural gas prices at an elevated rate, wholesale prices were high, we were not selling to the market, so I was buying it at a higher price, and I literally just have to pass that added cost to the customers, and that's what they saw. I can tell you, we hadn't had this in a while, and if just something to look at maybe down the road, if natural gas prices fluctuate extreme, we might need to go away from a month behind fuel adjustment. In other words, do an average over a 12 months, so you don't see that fluctuation so drastically month to month. It's a thought, and we're one of the few cities I found out that actually does an immediate month. Some cities do a rolling 3 month, some do 6 months, it just varies, okay? Just a thought, just wanted to give you all that. Also, the other thing I want to talk about is, as y'all know, we are a part of American Public Power Association. That's the national organization. I go to the national conference every year since I've become general manager, and that's kind of where, you're talking about the municipal organization, municipal electrical organizations from the whole country come in and go to these meetings, and they have sessions for, it's tailored mainly for boards and upper level managers at the national conference, okay? This year, it's in Nashville, Tennessee, okay? And I would recommend and advise that this board look at going, okay? Because there is literally sessions that are tailored for y'all that show what y'all should be looking at for me. I mean, it's actually talking about the governance is the responsibility of the board, the responsibility of the CEOs. It has areas where, it literally goes in there, and what reports y'all should be looking for me to provide to y'all, okay? And then you'll hear what is going on across the country. And because it is an easy drive, I think I would recommend that. I will give you more information of the itinerary. It hasn't fully came out, but I can tell you the meeting would be June 12th to June 15th, okay? And I can tell you, it fills up pretty quick, so what I'm gonna have do is when the hotel opens, I'm gonna have Danielle go ahead and book enough rooms for everybody. We can always come back and cancel if you choose not to want to go or choose not to go, okay? Or if something happens, they do have a cancellation policy where if we pay and this stuff hits bad again and everybody's like, no, I'm not going. They're allowing like 2 weeks before the conference for people to have a cancellation policy where it doesn't cost, okay? All right. The last thing I wanted to do was, today is somebody's last meeting. And I wanted to recognize her and thank her for her years of service. So if she could come up here, Miss Susan. Miss Susan started in 2007 serving on our board. So she's been on this board for 15 years. I think she had just, when was it we were on leadership? It was just right after.
It was right before it.
It was right before, yeah, actually.
Maybe 2005.
And it's a long time ago, yeah. Actually, me and Susan, we were both part of the Crittenden County Leadership Group on the same group. So again, I appreciate everything you've done for the utilities. I've always, when we're doing financial stuff in the audits, I always kind of look over there because I know she kind of has always been one odd. So I appreciate everything you've done for this board and what you've done for the city, and thank you for your service. Thank you.
Like I said last month, I have truly enjoyed being a part of the Utility Commission here at West Memphis. I didn't even know it existed when I was appointed to it, and I have learned so much, and I've been a part of the city that I have loved for the last 21 years, and I still do. I think West Memphis is a great place, and I tell people all the time, there's great people in the city. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss being here. I'm not retiring at this point, so I'll still be a Marion, and maybe you'll see me around. Please say hello. But this means a lot to me. Thank you.
Anything else to come before us? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Marshall, second. Mr. Phelps.
Didn't think about it. Mr. Murray, I should have done this. Mr. Murray is our new representative for City Council. Sorry about that. Thank you for being here. Should have done that also.
Okay, we stand adjourned.